All right, Shalom. First, let's start by saying our praise to Yahweh, by Shem Shai, by Shem Kakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brother that's doing the truth and sincerity. Now, this is a video clip of what's going on in Virginia Beach. You know, the same old story, a school shooting, in which all of these school shootings are orchestrated by the U.S. government, because when you look up that word terrorism on the etymology, it states government intimidation. The government is trying to scare the people, and the reason why they have these events because they're trying to take away the guns, because the ultimate goal is to bring in a new world order. You know, and of course, they might not get all the guns because the people gonna rise up and fight against the government, and they're gonna have to call in the troops and whatnot. But yeah, that's just it. Eventually, these false flags. These little events that happen like this are going to be a reality. You know, and ain't gonna be no more government terrorism. The people gonna actually rise up and start killing, each other and government officials and what have you, because America is going down. The money system gonna collapse. Food stores are going to close down to where you can't get any food. It's gonna be all out chaos in this place. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip and then grab some scriptures right afterwards.
Pete Williams, our expert here on the law and what we know about the police situation. Pete Williams.
Well, Chris, tonight the mayor is calling this the most devastating day in the history of Virginia Beach. The numbers, 11 people killed, 6 people injured. We don't yet know tonight the condition of the people who were taken to 2 hospitals, 5 to one to another. Presumably all with gunshot wounds, although authorities haven't said yet what the nature of their injuries is exactly. But this is a person, they say, who was an employee of this building. In other words, they say he was shooting at people that he knew. Entering the building just after 4 o'clock, about 4:30. This is the municipal building. It's in a cluster of city office buildings near the courthouse, near City Hall in Virginia Beach. And then the police chief says he just began indiscriminately opening fire. Now, we don't yet know what kind of weapon the gunman was carrying or how heavily armed he was. We do know that the police response was very quick because you've got all these city buildings around. You have this large police presence there anyway. They were in that building very, very quickly, and we do know that the gunman was killed in a shootout with police, and that one of the people who was a target of the gunman's gunfire was a police officer, but the police chief is saying that his life was spared by the body armor that he was wearing, by, in essence, his bulletproof vest. We don't yet know anything further about the motive. All they're saying is that this was a current employee of this municipal building. He's being described as a disgruntled employee, obviously. Earlier, there'd been a rumor that he'd been fired, but the police chief said...
Now, we know the trigger words that the news media be using. Just keep watch for that word disgruntled coming up in these news articles, because disgruntled mean, angry? Yep, like angry. And, us being out there on them highways and byways and stuff, or us being out through our regular jobs and be getting upset and whatnot, and these people be watching us like they eagles and stuff, and try to use that word against us to make it seem like we're the ones who are in the wrong. But 100% of the time, or 99% of the time, because we're not perfect, it'd be them who actually all be on BS. It'd be the righteous versus the wicked, throughout our daily lives. And ultimately, a lot of these clippings is made also because they know that that Yahweh Shai is on his way back and he's raising up his men. So they got to put out certain trigger words and certain articles to classify us as being potential terrorists or potential terrorists, if not terrorists, all the way type,
That he was a current employee. So we had sensed that this was a workplace shooting early on this afternoon when some of the witnesses were saying that they knew who the gunman was. So that suggested it was a coworker, someone they knew. We were just waiting to find out whether this was a domestic violence situation or workplace shooting, but it does seem now like it's the latter.
It seems that we've been saved from this particular category of mass shooting for a while. Remember, Pete, you've got a great memory. Remember all those post office situations that became almost classic?
Right, decades ago, and then there was a spate of them about 10 or 15 years ago, also in large industrial settings. But you're right, we haven't seen a lot of these, fortunately, lately. We're fortunate that they don't happen more often than they do. Of course, one of the questions is how did the person get the gun inside this building? But this was an office building, and not every office building in America. You expect to see metal detectors in courthouses, at the concourses of airports, which is where most Americans would run into them. Here in Washington, virtually every federal office building has metal detectors for people who walk in off the street. But this was the kind of place where you go in to see the people about your water bill, to operations of people who carry out the normal day-to-day operations of a city. And it did not have metal detectors, probably because there wasn't a lot of public walk-in. But that's how this person was able to get this gun in, and of course an employee would know how to do it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for...
Yep, and that's just to justify them bringing in the police state when you got stuff like this happening in areas that you wouldn't expect it to happen and that isn't heavily secured, They use that to set their little police troops in and stuff, because America is ultimately turning into a police state, also a surveillance police state, But I'm gonna start with it's 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Right, the Lord's elect and his men, the prophets, the ones that are doing this work, his will, are not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. We know that they doing this to bring in more gun laws, to help bring in this new world order, on top of bringing in more police officers, stuff of that nature, man. And putting up more cameras, because they had already declared the citizens as terrorists, So this next scripture is Micah chapter 2. Verse 1, it says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it." Right? The U.S., the elites that run this country, have the money to do all these test runs to see how the people react and, put all this stuff into play, all for the sake of bringing in the new world order. It says, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil." Right? So it's ultimately going to be a payback behind this. We just got to go through it. But like the scriptures say, man, eventually it's gonna get bad out here, and people gonna be really killing each other and stuff like that. It's really gonna be shootings and people getting held for ransom, and a lot of rape and stuff like that going on. Salakia. Looking for a scripture. All right, this second Ezra chapter 15, verse 16, it says, for there should be sedition among men, right? So these people are uprising against their government because of the legislation that's being passed, and because a lot of them do know that this is all set up and made and did by the elites and whatnot. But shall destroy their houses with the sword. Oops, like here. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Right, so it's going to be a time where these shootings turn real. You know, if they're not already real, a lot of them just be happening because they have an agenda to fulfill. It says a man shall desire to go in a city and shall not be able because they're going to be quarantined off, or militia held. It says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled and the houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. Right, they got the pride parade coming up. That's the pride of America. Homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, all that shit, queer. You know, that's why the Lord got all this stuff happening. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. Right. So there's going to be a lot of robbery. Those thugs that, you know, you were cursing out and locking up and all that, you know, they're going to be killing y'all because of all the wickedness. It's going to be that time. It says, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Right? You're going to have men out there afraid, man, on all levels. You know? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Because people are going to be hungry. People are going to be getting killed. Not just because they're angry at somebody making fun of them at the job, but because they're going to be hungry. So, yeah, with that being said, I want to drag it out. All praise to Yahweh Shema Shai. Double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.